Okay, I'm Paula. I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer since I was about 8 years old. And it was something that I always wanted to do. I was always really interested in taking photos of what was going on around me. I was just into documenting everything. I was always taking photos of everything. And then when I finished school, I tried all the different types of photography. Like I was a wedding photographer, and then I was a portrait photographer, and then I did fashion, and then I did corporate, and I even did a bit of like commercial stuff as well. Like I did a whole bunch of different types of photography, and I'd enjoy it for a while, and then I was like, oh, I kind of don't like it anymore. And it was like I couldn't quite find which type of photographer I was supposed to be. And I knew that that's what I was supposed to do, and that's what I wanted to do, but I couldn't find my niche, like my lane, my channel, like which box I fit into. And it wasn't until I started, probably about two years ago now, after I'd had my second child, and I was like, okay, I really want to get my business cranking again. What do I actually want to do? And I was kind of getting stuck as to what avenue I wanted to take. And I just found that as my kids were young, I was naturally just posting stuff about what was happening in my life and stuff with my kids and sharing that. And I started getting a lot of questions about from other people in business, like other women especially, saying, how do I document my life so I can share it as like content on for social media and things like that. So I started sharing that, not as a business, but just when friends would ask me, I'd be like, oh yeah, you can do it like this, this and this, and sharing like photography tips with them. And then it kind of, when was it? 2016, I did a photo a day challenge on my Instagram. And I did a photo a day in gratitude because I had just had my second baby. I still wanted to keep the habit of taking photos every day. And I knew that, newborn life is quite difficult. And I didn't really do it to share with other people. I sort of did it for myself. But then after that year, I found that it really is a therapy for me. It's a really great way for me to creatively express what's happening, and not only just to share, but also for myself. But then when I looked back, I'd realized that he was born in May. So from like the last bit of his pregnancy through until like almost the first year of his life, I was in like 2 photos. And I was like, oh, I've got all these beautiful photos of my baby, and my baby with my first child, and my baby with my husband, but where am I? And I was like, why aren't I in my own photos? This is ridiculous. So I started, I have done like self-portrait stuff before, but it's never been a main focus for me. So I started doing more self-portrait stuff. And then when I started doing that, even more people started asking me, oh, how do I put myself in my photo? Like, how do I take a good selfie? Because they started seeing me sharing more of that. So then it kind of just went on from there that I started creating stuff that was around how to put yourself in your photos. So that's where it all kind of came from. It wasn't like I set out to go, oh, I'm going to be a selfie like photography teacher. It was just from me documenting my own life and sharing a bit of that on social media, that people were like, oh, how do I do that? Because that's really cool for sharing things of myself on social media. Because when you go from sharing, it's more so when you're wanting to be a personal brand, or you've got something that's really personal about your business, and sharing more of who you are actually helps you relate more with your customers. So it's when you share more photos of yourself, there's kind of that stigma behind it, that it's like, oh, people doing selfies, like it's all like like look at me, and these perfectly primed and like flawless people, and it's like, oh, it's all filtered, it's all fake and all that sort of stuff. But actually sharing photos of yourself is actually a really good move, because it invites people into who you are, and it's not actually just a vain look at me thing. It's more of a, this is who I am and this is what I have to share, and that's what people are connecting to. So that's why I found that what I share is becoming really needed by other people, especially women, because we kind of have that inner struggle of, I want to be seen, but I find that there's stuff in there, like that self-talk, or there's, generational stuff that says women shouldn't be seen. Like we don't feel safe to step out and be seen and to show who we are. So we feel more comfortable if we hide behind, photos of other stuff, or putting up things and not actually showing who we are. But that's actually what connects you with other people. So, what I've been doing is not only helping women with the technical stuff of taking photos, but also that inner struggle, that inner dialogue, the mindset around it's okay to be and safe to be seen, and you can capture yourself in a way that feels really good for you, and that is going to invite people to want to connect with you and what you've got to share even more.
Yeah.
I hope
and I
that
think
made
there's three it did. I think there's three things that you said that really resonate with me, and probably the people that are going to watch this and listen to this later on. Firstly is that, like, I'm not a mother, but I see a lot with people who have all these photos of their kids and nothing of themselves.
Yeah.
And as a daughter, I want to see photos of my mum, and my father died a long time ago. I wish I had more photos of my dad too. So the thing about selfies is it helps to create memories, and it's not just about you, it's about the people around you that love you. So that's important. Secondly, for this Body Love Academy, I agree with you totally. People need to see your face to be able to trust you as a coach or as someone who's going to look after you. So that's why I've been challenging the ladies in my course to send me a selfie every week, and they're really resisting it because they're not used to doing that. But also they've got tons of technical questions, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I find that really important. As soon as I started putting my face out there all the time, I'll have clients that come to meet me the first time and give me a hug or start to cry the minute they meet me, because they feel like they know me. And that's the way to really connect, is to show your face, whether it's perfect or not. And the third thing is, from a body love perspective, is we need to see more diversity out there. So the photos we tend to see at the moment are very perfect, very skinny, very, the way that we're supposed to look. And that can feel really uncomfortable when you don't look that way. Whereas, as my body shape's changed now, I'm postmenopausal, and when I've have a feed that's full of women with different shapes and sizes. So when I'm having a day where I'm feeling a bit big and bloated, I'll see a beautiful woman who's got a big round belly like mine, and I'll think, God, she's gorgeous. So the more we see more diversity, the more empowered we're all going to feel.
Definitely. And I think a big part of that as well is, when you are capturing yourself, it's your energy behind it as well, which I talk a lot about. And if you feel like you're bloated, you don't look attractive, you run down, you're tired, or you just don't photograph well, you feel awkward. If you're feeling all those things when you're taking photos, that's going to come across in your photos. And you're more likely, when you look at it, go, oh, I don't like it. But it's not just because of the way you look physically. There's an energy there. When you take photos, there's always the energy of, like, the person taking the photo and also the person in the photo. So when you're taking the photo of yourself, it's your energy all over it. So if you are not in an energetic state that you want people to feel when they look at your photo, then they're not going to feel that. It doesn't matter how good you get at posing yourself and how, like, you're like, oh, that expression, that always makes me look like this. But inside you're like, I feel really awkward though. But that energy does come across. So really, I find getting yourself into an energy state before you start taking photos really helps to bring that through. And when you own your body and you really love and accept your body, and you're like, I just totally own my body, that comes through in your photos, because you can see it. A lot of the women that especially that are the more popular ones that are being followed as like more like the pioneers in this and being like embrace your body, and they've got beautiful photos of themselves, and people like that. I don't see that body enough, but you look amazing. How do I capture myself like that? A lot of it is confidence, a lot of it is self-acceptance, and a lot of it is seeing yourself and understanding your body. Like understand what you were gifted with, because your body is a gift, and really understanding how it moves, how it expresses naturally. Obviously your lighting, your angles and all of that stuff has a massive part to play as well, but just understanding how your body works, because everybody's body is different. And when you really understand your body, you can really capture the best photos of it, which is actually going to help boost your confidence in yourself and yourself, all that self-love and everything. And it's like a cycle. The more that you perpetuate that, you're going to start going in that direction and have that confidence and you know, that radiate in your photos. Whereas if you keep focusing on the negative stuff and you're like, I've never liked this part of my body, or I always look like this, or blah blah, that starts to snowball in the other direction. So yeah, getting your energy behind it is super important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So let's start. There's a bunch of questions, so let's start with a couple of them.
And Samara, do you know what? I was thinking of Samara when I was talking about that as well.
Yeah,
because she's amazing with her photos.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey,
hi.
So the first question I think, and you touched on it, was lighting and angles. Like if you're just starting out, what are some quick things to learn about that?
With lighting, I was actually hopefully going to do this outside, but it's just started raining, so I'm inside, but you'll still be able to see. What I do is, before I take any photo, so I've got a window in front of me here. So I've got a light source coming in this way. Before I take a photo, I just put my camera on selfie mode and I'll turn in a circle, because you can see the shadows and the light on my face change as I turn in a circle. So when you're outside, I was hoping it was going to be a really sunny day for this, but when you're outside in the middle of the day, if you do that, you'll notice that as you go around, you'll really start to see the light change, especially around under your eyes, under your nose and under your chin, because the light's coming from directly above. So that's why when, you know, you try to take a photo on a really sunny day and you're like, oh, I can't quite get the light right, like I look hideous, why do I look tired, and all that sort of stuff. If you turn in a circle, you'll be able to see where that sweet spot with the light is, because you'll notice those shadows starting to change. And depending where the shadows fall can either look really flattering, or it can look really unflattering, and you will see it in a split second. You'll be like, oh my God, when I stand here, I look hideous, and when I stand here, it actually looks okay. And then moving your body, like your camera as well, slightly down and slightly up to see where those sweet spots of the light are for that time of day in that moment, because the weather always changes. So it's not always going to be the same spot as well. So I always find turning in a circle really, really helps to find where that sweet spot is for the lighting.
Fantastic. And then in terms of angles, is looking up better than looking down, or is there a better way to do an angle?
Okay, so with angles, this comes down to body, like how you're, like what proportions your body are. Some people have really long torsos. Some people have really short torsos. Some people have really long legs. Some people don't. Some people have wider hips. Some people don't have any hips at all. Your head shape as well. Some people have really round faces. Some people have really slim faces. Depending on your body shape, it's really getting to know and understand your body. So play with your angles. I find that as a general rule, if you set your phone, your camera up, or your phone, and you have it at about waist height, that usually gives you a pretty well proportioned likeness of yourself. If you have your phone down on the ground, then it's going to make your legs look really long, but it's going to make your head and your upper body look really short. And if you have it further up, it's going to make the other parts of your body really long and your legs look really short. So it's finding that sweet spot for you. If you've got really beautiful legs, like long, beautiful legs, you might be able to get away with having it slightly higher because you've got long legs anyway. You might have a shorter torso or something. But if you've got really short legs, moving it slightly down lower will help make your legs look a little bit longer. With your face as well. I've got like a really skinny face, so actually front on usually feels quite good for me. But I know with people who have naturally rounder faces, it's not that you're like, oh, I've got a big pumpkin head when I take photos of myself. It's just that what happens is that you're a 3D person. So when you're in person, you don't look like that. But when you're taking a photo, it's like a 2D version of you. So it's sort of like compressed everything, and there's no depth or shape to your face, so it can appear much rounder. So even just tilting your face slightly to one side is going to add all that depth in there, and it's going to slightly change the look of your face. One thing I want to say about selfies though that I don't think a lot of people actually know is that if you took a selfie with a selfie camera like this, and then you go back and you look at the photo afterwards, your hand will be in the other way. So what is actually happening is it showing you your mirrored reflection when you're taking the photo in the phone? Because that's what you're used to. You're used to seeing yourself in the mirror. So that makes sense for my arm to be on this side because that's the arm on this side that's taking the photo. But then when you look the photo back, it's actually the flipped. So if you've got your head slightly tilted, it's going to show, it's actually capturing it the other way around. It's so confusing, but it captures it the other way around. And because your face isn't symmetrical, that's why when sometimes you take a photo and you're like, oh, like you're lining it up and you're like, yeah, this looks really cool. But then when you go to look at the photo afterwards, you're like, that doesn't look like the photo that I was just taking. Like, why did it change? It's because it's actually showing you a mirrored image of what it's actually capturing. So knowing your angles and just doing test shots. So like take a photo with your head tilted like this and then take another one straight away with your head tilted like this, or like to the side slightly, like 45-degree angles, and you'll be able to notice that you look different in each photo. And then that way you'll be able to say, oh, that one looks good because it feels familiar to me. And then if you look at the other one, you're like, that kind of doesn't look like me. Because it's just what you're used to seeing as your reflection, because that's what we see of ourselves. So the more that you see yourself in photos, the more you'll start to recognize how you were captured, because it's the reverse of what we're used to. And our brains are so wired for repetition, for patterns, for that, what's the word I'm looking for? It likes things to be familiar. But then if you show it something that's not quite familiar, your brain's natural reaction is to go, oh, I don't know, is that safe? Because I don't know what that, like, I don't know that I was expecting to see myself, but I see something slightly different. That's just your natural survival mechanism kicking in. It's like as soon as something's different, it kind of goes, whoa, hang on, is this safe? Like, am I going to be okay here? Like, what is this? So the more that you see yourself in photos, the more you'll start to train your brain to say, this is actually me as well. And it will start to feel better. So I think actually just starting can be really hard for a lot of women, especially because your natural reaction is, that's not what I look like. That's not what I was expecting. Because it's actually the other way around. It's so confusing when you first start thinking about it.
No, but it's so interesting. I took a really good selfie recently with a new haircut, and I have no idea how to recreate the angle because it just, you know what I mean? Because it was like an angle I wouldn't normally do. Yeah. And then every time I try and do it, because of that phone thing, I can't, you know, it's really, just got to keep practicing. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Because you think it should just be looking like that, but it doesn't look anything like that when I take the photo.
Because you've also got how high or how low you were holding the phone. You've also got how far or like high or low you were tilting your head. You've also got the lighting that's going to affect that as well. Also, what's going on in your background, the clothing that you're wearing and things like that will all affect the way that your photo looks and feels. So the way that clothes sit on your body is going to change your body shape as well. So I usually wear quite a lot of like loose fitting tops, but I also don't have big hips. So I find if I want to take a photo that is like has that feminine sort of feel and I have curves and stuff, I have to like really concentrate on popping out one of my hips and trying to have my clothing closer to my body so I can show that off. Otherwise I look like I'm just rectangular up and down. So yeah, there's so many things that go into it if you're trying to recreate a photo, whether it's a photo of yourself or a photo you've seen of somebody else's. Because so many times we're like, oh my God, this photo looks amazing. I'm going to take this photo as well. It's kind of like that Pinterest fail thing that's been going around. That you try to do that. It's kind of like Instagram fail, that you're like, oh, I saw this photo, tried to recreate it. I look nothing like that. I failed. I must be crap at, being in photos, when really there's so many things going on. It's more a case of trying to find, like drawing inspiration from that pose or that photo and trying to tweak it so it looks and feels really good on your body.
And that's going back again, though, to self-acceptance, isn't it? And going, I love myself anyway, even if the photo doesn't look exactly how I wanted it to.
Exactly.
And being able to sort of almost look at yourself objectively and go, well, if someone else looked at this photo, they'd probably think it was gorgeous. It's just that I can see all the flaws,
Yeah, you're your own worst critic. Exactly. And it's so many times, so many times you'll have photo, or somebody's taken a photo of you, and then you look at that, they go, it's an amazing photo. And then you look at it and you go, I look terrible in that. Is that what you think I look like? But it's also that they don't see your mirrored reflection either. So their view of you and their understanding and their the way that their brain processes how you look is different than what yours does, because you're used to mirror image and they see your actual self. And they also see your 3D-ness, whereas you don't see that in the mirror either. So do we really truly see ourselves? It's like one of those things. It kind of comes back to that. It's like we don't actually truly see ourselves. Like it's crazy to think about it because we're inside the body. But yeah, we don't actually see ourselves like that. So of course other people are going to have a different opinion of us. Yeah.
So one of the other questions we got a lot of was, do you use a selfie stick, or how do you get like photos of you when you're further, you want it further away or whatever?
I don't own a selfie stick. I don't know how they work.
Okay.
I put my phone down. So instead of investing in a selfie stick, I would suggest investing in a tripod. I've got the Joby Gorilla tripod. It's actually holding my phone right now, but I can show you. If you can see it, hang on, wait, I'll do it this way. That makes more sense. I'll hold it up. So it's this one, it's a bit out of shape now, but it's like all these legs sort of bend and move. So you can actually stand it up straight, you can wrap it around something. They're awesome. I really love the Joby ones. This tripod, I think there are other brands of these, and there's smaller versions and bigger versions and all that sort of stuff. But I reckon finding a tripod that fits easily in a bag that you carry around with you a lot, because I usually carry a backpack with me. I've got kids, so I've got nappies and spare changes of clothes and snacks and water and all things for them, so they don't die of starvation or or whatever they complain about.
Or have a nappy problem,
Yeah. So, I find having a tripod really helps. I didn't have a tripod for a while either, though. So when you're out and you're wanting to take a photo, I would sometimes use a towel, because we live by the beach. I've usually always got a towel with me. And I'd scrunch up the towel and use that as like a makeshift tripod. Your shoe, your reusable coffee cup, finding a fence or something to lean your phone against, anything really. You can put your phone up and step back from the camera. All you've got to focus on is, when you do that, is to set up what you can see in your phone. Make sure the background looks kind of good. There's no distracting things going on. Make sure your horizon is level, or if you've got, you know, vertical stuff going on, just kind of line it up so it looks kind of nice. And then what I usually suggest with people when they're first starting out and taking photos is to not actually do it on self-timer mode, but put it on video mode. So what video mode does is that it will take a video while you do it, but it's kind of like doing research on yourself. So the more that you see how your body moves, the more you understand how you can pose your body. So set it up, walk away. You can see how, like, moving closer to the camera, moving further away. I like to do something in front of the camera. I'll either, because I like the vibe of my photos to be fun, playful, energetic. So I'll do something like, I might do some cartwheels. I might dance a little bit like a bit of a dog. I loosen my body up. I get into that fun, playful vibe. And then I'll start to try out poses that I've seen, poses that I like, poses that I know look good on my body, and maybe I might mix it up and try something different. But I will just keep moving my body, and I'll do it for a few minutes. So what that does is it loosens my body up, gets me in that energetic state, gets me creative with my body, gets me moving my body in, out of my head and into my body. And then when I play the video back, I can then see what angles look great, what positions my body makes, what shapes I can make with my body that looks really cool. And then I can go back and use the self-timer to take the photos of how I like my body. So instead of like trying to jump straight in and go, oh, I'm going to do self-timer stuff and I think this might look good. Oh no, that doesn't look good. Oh, what can I do? And then like trying to figure it out as you go. I find it's a much quicker process to actually video yourself, because you can see, oh, from that angle looks really great. So then you could be like, okay, so this angle onto the camera looks really good. I'm kind of at a 45-degree angle or something like that. I'm just going to play with doing stuff like here with my arms and whatever. And you can sort of get a better idea of what's going to work and how it's going to work on your body. So you can also do screenshots from the video and use them as photos as well, because you can actually get like the perfect spot. Like if you were to jump off something, or if you were to do a cartwheel, or if you're dancing and you wanted a photo of you like twirling or doing something, or playing with your kids and running, you can actually pinpoint the spot where you get the photo that you probably wouldn't have been able to get anyway if you were doing self-timer stuff. The only thing is the photo quality is not going to be the best. But for social media, like for Facebook posts and stuff like that, it's fine, because people aren't going to like view it on a big billboard or print it out or anything like that. So as long as you've got like a nice, clear, sharp image from working with your light and everything, it's a really, really great way to do research on your body and figure out what actually looks good on you and what, how you can position your body to show certain emotions. So people can, when they come to your social media account, and when they get to know your brand or your business or what it is that you're wanting to say or share, they get that right energy from you, the energy that you want them to feel from you, and not awkward, oh, I'm trying to take a photo of myself, but I'm not so sure about it vibe, or the I'm doing this because people said I should do it and I'm not really comfortable doing it vibe, whatever that is. Because if you feel good when you're taking the photo, you're going to like the photo more. Like there's more chance of you actually liking the photo, because what happens in a photo, like, you know, you look back at photos that you took previously, and you'd be like, I remember that moment. And it kind of gets you in that moment, and you kind of think about it, and you're like, oh my God, I was so relaxed in that photo. We'd just done this, this, and this, and I just remember that feeling. Like it kind of brings you back. It's because photos hold that energy. So having that energy in there is just going to help other people to see that and to feel that. So I guess that's why they say a picture's worth. I think they say the picture's worth 1,000 words, but I'm pretty sure the original quote was a picture's worth 10,000 words. I think I read that somewhere, that I was like, oh, it's actually 10,000 words. But it's so true, because it's not just stating what was there and like taking a photo just fact of what was there sort of thing. It's actually bringing the energy and the emotion and all that sort of stuff in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious of time. I've got 2 more quick questions.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I haven't even been looking at
we need
time.
So we're,
oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we've got a few more minutes. First one is, what would you suggest to get started with? I know it's different for everyone, but kind of some ideas with location. Like, where are some good places to take photos?
Okay, so location. I suggest with location is to practice in places that you usually are, because you'll usually be there a lot, and it'll give you lots of opportunity to practice. Because what will happen is your location will look and feel different at different times of day, especially outside, depending on the weather, the seasons, the intensity of the sun, the cloud coverage, you know, if anything's happened in the environment that was out of your control, like somebody could have put up a building, or they could have cut down some trees, or they could have changed something. So we live right next to the beach. So a lot of my photos have the beach in it because that's really easy for me to get to. I'm there pretty much every day. So I practice a lot taking photos there because that's my environment. Also in my home. So I always suggest practicing taking photos inside as well as outside, because you'll get to understand light a lot better. Inside it's usually more consistent, and you can pretty much predict which room at what time of day after you've done it a few times is best for taking photos. You'll find your sweet spots with your lighting, like coming in through windows and doors and things like that. Also like the colours of your walls of certain rooms. And it also changes depending on which way your windows are facing, like the sun's moving during the day. So sometimes it can, and also seasons. So, you know, in winter where the sun's a lot lower, sometimes it might come directly in, and you can play with shadows and really like contrasty light with that. Whereas in summer it's a lot higher, so it might actually not come in, and it's more like light bouncing around and reflecting. When you're outside, visit the spots that you go to at different times of day and actually take photos in the same spots, and you'll be able to see, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this spot is amazing at sunrise. Not so good towards the end of the day because there's not a lot of light and it's quite dark, or you know, it's not great during the middle of the day because there's nowhere for me to, there's no like shade for me, or it's too bright. I find like with the sand, it's quite reflective because it's light coloured, like things like that. Looking at what's actually in the environment and the colours that you've got going on, because they will look different at different times of day. So yeah, just practicing, because the main thing is that your camera can't see as much as what your human eye can. So when you look at a scene and you see, you know, the bright sun, and then you can see all the, say for example, you're at the beach, you can see the sun, you can see the sky, you can see the really white clouds, you can see the dark blue water, you can see the sand, you can see the white caps on the waves, you can see the detail of that. You can then see the tree, and you can see the shadow under the tree. But when you take a photo of that scene, your camera can't capture the really bright parts and the really dark parts. It will probably focus on one or the other. So just be wary of that, taking photos at different times of day is going to mean that you're going to get different results with your camera. It's not always going to be the same as what your eyes can see. So you might look at the scene and be like, okay, I'm going to take a photo. And then when you look at that photo, you're like, it's not as like vibrant as what I can see with my eyes, or it's quite dark. Why is it quite dark when it's quite bright for me? It's just because your camera can't see the same range that what your human eyes can. So practice in all different kinds of light, so you get to understand how they're captured.
Yeah,
definitely.
And then my last question is about filters. Do you recommend filters, or how do you use them? Or No. Okay, so filters, I don't recommend filters, and I don't really recommend using the same filter over and over and over again. Reason being is, if you do that, you'll start to, when you look back through your stuff, it's kind of like, it can kind of be like a filtered version of your life. Because especially if the filter is not, is kind of out there,
Because I know some of the filters that people use, especially on, yeah, so more like Instagram, Snapchat, when you use the filters that it like distorts your face, or it like really smooths out your skin, or it puts like fake like eyeshadow on you, or it puts like a I don't know, a glittery thing coming across or whatever. If you start to use them over and over again, the same filters, your brain sees that as repetition, as pattern, so that when there isn't a filter on and you take a photo, that then is new information for your brain, and you go kind of like, oh no, I need my filter. Like, I don't think that that's a healthy practice to get into. What I do is there's a Photoshop app, and I use a Photoshop app to edit my photos. I do edit every single photo that I take, definitely, because like I said, your camera can't capture the same range of tones as what your human eyes can see. So when you take a photo, it's usually like a duller version of what your eyes can see. Like you want to make your photos pop. You want to like bring it out. You want to bring out the highlights and the shadows, and really get what you're wanting in your photo to really pop out and grab people's attention. So I really suggest getting like the Photoshop Express app, because you can adjust the light, the colors, the sharpness, all those things separately. Whereas if you used a filter, it's like a blanket. It just puts a blanket over your photo, and you just increase how thick that blanket is. But when you can individually adjust those settings, it will help you to create consistency among your photos, but it also stays true to the photos in a way. It doesn't just put a blanket over them. So you can, get a kind of consistent style happening with your photos by tweaking those little points. And it actually gets you to understand how your camera sees as well. It's just another layer of understanding like how your camera captures you, so you know how to take better photos and do that with your camera, rather than relying on a filter to fix everything. Because I think that's what a lot of people do. They go, oh, it's like kind of like a okay photo, I'll just whack a filter over and it'll make it better. But I think actually learning how to, like, understanding your body and how your camera captures you is far better than just putting filters over everything. So yeah, doing that, I reckon, is much better than using filters. There's, I do a whole heap of tutorials and stuff like that in my membership. I'm pretty sure I've got a video on my Facebook page that goes through editing. Maybe. Not sure, but YouTube would have heaps as well.
But I was going to ask, like, if people are interested in learning more and working with you, you've got lots of workshops and memberships and stuff available.
Oh, yeah.
So how do people find out more about you and where you are?
Good question. I do in-person workshops. I'm located in Sydney at the moment. We are at the end of April. We're going to be doing the lap of Australia in a caravan with our family. So I will be going around Australia. So if you are anywhere else in Australia other than Sydney and you want me to do a workshop, just PM